So this film was a little bit different this week. Prog's choice. I think you purposely threw it in there because I, I, I think that you knew it was going to create a reaction. I'm pretty sure you said that on the podcast anyway.
I can't remember what I said last week, to be honest.
Yeah. It's so the film we're talking about this week is Blue Velvet. 1986 David Lynch directed movie. David Lynch wrote as well. I believe he had a hand in writing it, didn't he?
Yeah, so there were a few drafts going around previously, and then he got hold of it and did his own version, I believe.
It's I think I said to you guys on text, right? I sat down for 2 hours and I watched this movie. And normally I make a raft of notes, and in the meantime, I might have a quick look on a website to grab a fact or two. And I more or less had a blank page. I had a little bit of budget at the top, memories, none, because I've never seen this before. And I'm struggling a bit here, right? But when I watched this movie, I could only think of two things. One, am I watching Twin Peaks? The main character is Jeffrey, and he's played, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's in Twin Peaks as well. But it had the Twin Peaks feel about it. Is David Lynch anything to do with Twin Peaks?
Yeah, he created Twin Peaks.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all then.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I was half expecting a massive twist at the end of it, like Society. Society is the film we watched that goes a bit by the end, isn't it?
With is it the shunting?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Where the guy is an arsehole, his face is an arse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came away after that film. I was just like, what the hell just happened? So this is going to be interesting.
How many days ago did you watch it?
2 days ago.
So have you managed to formulate any opinion of the film?
Yeah. I don't think it's for me. I'll say it now.
Yeah. We all know what Ev thinks already.
He hasn't even said a word, and
I'll get onto that in a minute. Yeah.
So, and we'll get into the film in a moment, right? So, I have no memories of this film at all. To be honest, I don't even think I've heard of this film, and I half expected it for me to see glimpses of a memory or something as I was watching it, but yeah, nothing. And yeah, I think it's just a bit weird, and it doesn't surprise me now that you said David Lynch is associated with Twin Peaks, because it's very, very similar in the style, if that makes any sense.
Tone and
the tone, yeah. And also, I know you hate this whenever I say it about films, Prog. I did ask a question at the end: was that a fucking dream or not? And I half expected again for him to like wake up. I know that end passage where he sat in like a deck chair in his back garden.
Yeah.
I expected there to be a bit of a twist as well then, especially with how it started. You know, his old man has a heart attack, and then the camera goes down, and you get that they're like beetles or something in the earth.
It's bugs and insects.
I didn't really get that element, and I thought it was going to come back round to that.
All that is symbolism.
All right.
So it's meant to represent. So at the beginning, you get what is perceived to be the idyllic version of a small suburban town in America, and the insects and bugs that he sometimes zooms in on is meant to represent the seedy underbelly, the stuff that you don't see going on until you really, really look. And that's what the film's about. It's the contrast.
And you're right in asking that question, is like, what's my opinion 2 days later? And I sort of started to get more of that symbolism side of things, you know, that, like you said, that seedy underbelly. And funnily enough, there was a guy on Twitter, because we follow a number of different sort of like film people, and he had posted a picture about it, and it was Dennis Hopper's character on the mask.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, funnily enough, I only watched this last night. I'm not sure what to think of the film. And he said to me, oh, you've got to watch it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if I want to, and we'll get into that.
That's
in a
fair.
moment.
That's fair enough. I mean, I know quite a few people who have watched it once and they can't watch it again because of various reasons. But I have watched this film a couple of times, and I will admit that I found it better each time I've watched it. Although I will say that I do have certain issues with the film, not so much in terms of the story, but in terms of the execution or certain aspects of how they, or certain ways they've executed certain elements of the film, should I say. But
So,
I
so
think
when did you first watch it? Sorry to jump in.
That's right. I saw it on Movie Drone.
The good old movie drones come around.
Yeah, on BBC Two. Yeah, and I remember because obviously you watch the intro. The Movie Drone program was always a 5-minute introduction by a film critic. And I remember watching the intro. I remember thinking, "Oh, this sounds really interesting." Now, I suppose I'll give this a watch. And I hadn't really got into David Lynch at that time. The only film I'd ever seen by David Lynch was Elephant Man, and I love that film, Elephant Man. I think that's really good. And I will admit, I still think that's David Lynch's best film, but I think that's his best film in my eyes because it's just a straight film. There's no surreal aspects to the film like there is with his other work. Because if you watch some of his other films, they're even more off kilter than this one. Like
I was just looking to see what else he done. He done Eraserhead.
I'd love to have Ev watch some of David Lynch's other films just to see what he'd think of them.
Didn't he do Mulholland Drive?
Yeah, which is a great film, but there are things in that film that I do not understand, and I don't know why they're in there. To this day, I still don't know why they're in there.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I was just looking for his films now, and I think the only one I've ever seen is Elephant Man.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen the original Dune. I haven't seen Eraserhead. Okay,
but I remember after obviously I watched this on Movie Drone, and I remember after I watched it, I remember thinking, I don't know what to think about that. What am I supposed to be thinking about that film? And it was one of those films that stayed with me. And we'll obviously get into the reasons why as we go through the podcast. But I watched it again about 6 months later because it was on TV again. I don't know what was going on, but it was on TV again. Or I don't know how I managed to watch it again. But the second time I watched it, I started to pick up on things. And I haven't watched it loads, but I'd say I've watched this film about four times. I think this was the 5th time I've watched it. And again, during this version, I was picking up on little details and like things that were written for characters to say that would make sense later on or try and have significance later on. Now, again, I'm going to say I do have issues or problems with the execution of some of the things that David Lynch is trying to do. But I do like David Lynch as a director because he's always willing to try things.
come on, then, Ev. You haven't seen this before, have you?
No,
Obviously.
no. First time watching it last night, and one sitting, I may add, just the one. But like you, I couldn't get behind this film at all. No matter how much I tried, you know, it was version on Mac and Me feelings, and Mac, you know, Mac and Me at least had the McDonald's cheesy dance going for it. I think this I don't know what it is. It's just I just found myself from the get go just not. I just didn't. I didn't have any connection with the lead characters at all. I just for the majority of it, I just thought it's just trying to be arty and pretentious for the sake of it. And the story I could see. I'll get onto most of these and changes later, but the story is, you know, a relatively decent story. But there's no motive. I couldn't see why was her her son kidnapped, or a husband and a son kidnapped? Why? I don't get it.
Because he was fascinated with her and he wanted her for himself. So he kidnapped. You're talking about Frank kidnapping
Yeah.
the son, yeah? I think what it was is that Frank kidnapped their husband and son because he wanted her for himself and he wanted her to do anything he asked.
Well-
Which is when you see Frank for the first time, she's pretty much doing everything he asks, isn't she?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question then? Who is ear is it at the beginning of the film?
It's her
Is it
husband.
the husband. I put it that, but I don't think they actually said at any point in the film, do they, that it's his ear. They may have, but I may have missed it.
Yeah. Do we want to bother going through favorite aspects and favorite scenes and we just try and talk about the film? Because I think you boys might have loads of questions, and while I don't think I'll be able to answer everything, I might be able to give my impression of stuff.
Oh, I feel sorry for you here. I'm just gonna rant for hours, and
That's all right, because I'll be honest with you, Ev. The first couple of times I watched the film, you know, the bookends where it seems like this perfect world.
yeah.
Those sections of the film, the first 10 minutes and the last 5 to 10 minutes, they didn't sit well with me the first couple of times I watched them, because I always thought the dialogue was really hammy, like really on the nose, and I also thought the acting was almost a little, what's the word? I'm not going to say wooden because that sounds harsh. Like it didn't feel natural. Like it was almost,
It's forced. I found
Yeah.
it at times.
Yeah.
but the more times I've watched it, right? And now I don't know this for a fact, so I might be talking absolute rubbish. But the more times I've watched it, I think that's on purpose. Because when you are in the main body of the film, like where you know the scene where it zooms into the ear.
Yeah.
You know, Noah shows the human ear and it zooms in on the ear and it goes in through the ear. I reckon that's meant to symbolize Jeffrey wanting to explore the underbelly of, you know, the dark world of the world of that town he's living in, right? And I think from that moment to when you pan out of the year at the end, right, you get Jeffrey's story in this underworld. And I think if you notice the dialogue and the acting and also the lighting for most of it, they're completely different. It feels like a different film. I don't know if either of you boys recognize that or thought that.
I didn't until you've just said it there. Yeah, I mean,
even if you notice Jeffrey's character, he's slightly different as well. Now, I'm not going to say that Kyle MacLachlan is amazing in this film, right? As much as I love Kyle MacLachlan, I think he's a good actor. I don't think he's great in this film. But the more times I've watched the film, the more I get the sense that he was told to play it slightly differently as well, from the beginning and end passage as opposed to the big middle part where they're in the dark world. So
I just thought that the film at times was trying to do the suspense that you would often associate with a Hitchcock film. So I thought they did elements of it, but I couldn't put my finger on why I felt it fell short.
I think it's execution.
Yeah, possibly. And also you mentioned just now about there is a feeling that the actors are being a bit wooden. And again, I don't like using that word either.
I don't think it is wooden. I think it's meant to be
I
like
think it's
more,
direction.
Yeah, I think it's more like surface level, false nicety. It's meant to represent this perfect world that they're in at the start. I think that's what it's meant to be. Because if you notice Laura Dern's character, Sandy, she's your quintessential perfect, like virgin girl, isn't she? Like untarnished by the seedy underbelly, as it were. And I think I think she's meant to. So you got one opposite there, and then you've got Dorothy, Isabella Rossellini's character, who's the polar opposite. Like she's fully immersed in that world, and I get the impression that she does not know how to get out of it, which is why she's lost her head. Like if you look at her through the film, she's completely gone.
Yeah.
Because when I first watched, the first few times I watched the film, I remember thinking to myself, why does she want to have a relationship with Jeffrey, even when all this stuff is happening with Frank and her husband and son disappearing? And then I was thinking about, like, David Lynch is a very sort of, he tries to throw like psychological elements into his films, doesn't he? And I think in terms of the Dorothy character, I think psychologically she's just fucking messed up given what's happened to her. And she's in this now abusive, quote unquote, relationship with Frank that she can't do anything about. She's got to be subservient to him. And I think Jeffrey almost represents this glimmer of, like, if not hope, at least, like, he's an outsider, isn't he? He's from the idyllic world, as it were. So maybe she sees in him this chance to, like, and of course, when you think psychology of what she's going through, like, nobody knows exactly how someone's going to react, is it? So that's why I find this film quite fascinating. If I don't find this film amazing by any stretch of the imagination, I find it fascinating for the things that happen and trying to understand why they're happening. Sorry, I'm talking.
No. It's
No,
interesting
go on.
because
Yeah, it is.
I think I have an appreciation for the film or what they're trying to achieve. For me, I just didn't get it, and I think it starts also with the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was a little bit all over. It started like a Disney film.
I wrote down that the opening music sounded like a cross between an episode of Murder, She Wrote and a porn film which is trying to be high class.
I just had like vibes of like a live action Disney film, like a Bedknobs and Broomsticks or something like that. But then as the film goes on, I can see what he's trying to do, and he's trying to use the score to sort of really sort of heighten certain moods and emotions at that time. So for example, do you know when Jeffrey steals the keys from Isabella, or not Isabella, Dorothy, sorry. The music all of a sudden goes a little bit like Pink Panther, bloody Peter Sellers. And I was like, what the hell am I watching here? It's like, and then, it just jumps from like one style of music to another, or mood of music, I should say.
I'm actually on board with both of you in terms of the soundtrack. I do think it's uneven. Now, I could forgive it if the bookends of the film had one type of soundtrack. Like Ev, you were saying, it was almost this Murder, She Wrote, like / porn film type of thing. But obviously that's meant to be, the bookends are meant to be this like perceived idyllic nature of the town. So like if the bookends just had that type of soundtrack and then everything else in the underworld is a different soundtrack, but that's consistent, then I'd be on board with the soundtrack being the way it is. But I think the issue you have, or I had, is, and it sounds like you boys might have had as well, is that even when he's in the underbelly, the seedy world, the soundtrack jumps all over the place. So it's not consistent enough.
Yeah.
And that comes down to my main problem with the film, and that's execution in terms of what David Lynch is trying to do.
There's a couple of things I had issue with as well in the film. And one of them, the first question I had was, why was David allowed to go to the coroner's office? Get my words out, sorry. No, he's found it here. He took it to the police station. And then he was allowed to like do ride along.
Jeffrey, me.
Jeffrey, sorry, yeah. He was allowed to do ride along, wasn't he?
I wrote exactly the same thing. I mean, like, has he got carte blanche because he found an ear? It's just like, yeah, come
Yeah.
on, Jeff.
He was allowed to go and have a chat with Quincy, and then we're straight on to the murder scene or the search sign, whatever. Yeah.
I think that's a case of they couldn't figure out, or when they were writing it, they couldn't. That was the best way they thought of getting Jeffrey into finding out certain information.
And this is another goes on to another issue that I have with with this part of the film. For me, you meet Jeffrey, goes and meets his dad, blah blah blah. He finds a year brilliant. There's not enough intrigue for me of unreasoning to why he's then digging a bit deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think the writers then you were right in saying that the writers needed a little bit more to guide that journey along. So they had him going to the various sites and things.
I'm completely on board with you. Ev said the same thing earlier. I completely agree with you on this. They don't sell Jeffrey's almost obsession enough. I think if it had begun as intrigue, and then over the course of the next 20 to 30 minutes, it started to become an obsession, I think that would have worked better. But they don't even sell it as obsession. So it kind of jumps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's like, he doesn't even say to Sandy, "I need to know," and she doesn't say to him, "Why do you need to know?" Like, just one conversation like that would have helped. Or they do have a conversation
in the diner, is it?
Yeah, but I don't think they sell it well enough.
Yeah,
for you to be on board with Jeffrey's need to know what is going on.
Yeah, there's no like you say. Yeah, agree 100%. There's no connection between Jeff and this case at all. It's almost as if like he's bored. He's got nothing else to do. He's just go off.
Well,
okay, I'll go on a murder case.
That's the other thing for me. He comes home because his dad is ill. I'm assuming he's in college / university, whatever they call it over there, right? So he has to come home, work in his dad's shop to help out, while his dad's recovering. Get all that. I think it needed something else just to tie it in for me. He found a year, but maybe there's something else. Maybe he notices something on the street. Maybe he reads something in a newspaper about a crime, and he starts thinking, oh, wait a minute, there's something going on here.
Yeah, so I think the issue that the three of us have is the build-up or the entry point into what then becomes the main body of the film, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you have the introduction of Laura Dern's character, who is, remind me her name?
Sandy. She's the daughter of the detective.
Yeah. So the connection is there that he's at the detective's house. Again, another thing like, why is he there? But her journey along and her intrigue, I was sort of questioning that in the sense of, why is she so interested in it? But is it because she really fancies Jeffrey?
I get the impression that she's wanting to impress him or get him on side, but that's only after watching it for 4 or 5 times. Yeah. And if I'm honest, I'm trying to think of a reason, because they don't sell that either.
No, that should be sold as, he's a college guy, she's high school, a couple of years older. There's the attraction there. She, on the face of it, she's like with the jock of the school, or one of the jocks of the school in there. And like that poor guy, his girlfriend just runs off. He's in a and when he catches her, Mike, yeah. Do you know when he catches her? Oh, Jeffrey pulls up in his convertible, blah blah, and she gets in the car with him, and then Mike sees her. Well, she can clearly see that Mike's on the other side of the pitch, or the other side of the road, and she's football practicing. Why don't she just say, "Oh, look, go around the corner. I'll be there in 5 minutes."
I know, yeah. And then but again, that comes back to like execution of the story, isn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately, it's lacking in some parts. Well, in our eyes, it's lacking in some parts anyway.
But she says to Jeff that she loves Mike about 10 minutes before in the film, and she stresses it. It's like, I have to tell you, I love Mike.
But that's why I think she does actually like Jeffrey. She's trying to convince herself that she likes Mike. Again, it comes back to the dialogue. The dialogue is one of the things I have an issue with. I just don't think the dialogue is written well enough in certain parts of the film.
Can I tell you something? I'm going to hold my hand up now. I told a little bit of a fib at the beginning of this podcast, and I said I wrote no notes apart from budget and box office. I did write a note. This is how it goes. I love you, Jeffrey. I love you too. Dash. That's exactly my notes. Because I just didn't believe that bit. She's known him for a week, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And they're both in love. Or okay, they may be just stupid teenagers.
Oh, come on.
And it's infatuation. But
you fell in love inside 2 days once.
Oh,
and it's just it cracks me up later on in the film how Sandy's so angry at Jeff for when it comes out that he's been sleeping with Dorothy.
She's young, man.
But they weren't together at that point, and she was loving Mike anyway.
Yeah, no, but that is what's happened there though is that she thinks that they were still having a relationship, or she's been sorry. So this idea of a relationship between Jeffrey and Dorothy has been thrust on her when she thinks right, okay. When she thinks that she is now in a relationship. She's not heard about the relationship between Jeffrey and Dorothy before that moment. Jeffrey never says anything about him sleeping with Dorothy to Sandy, which is why she reacts the way she does. Yeah. But of course, if he explained it to her, like, yeah, I was sleeping with her before we got together, then you'd like to think, even though she's very young, she might go to herself, okay, all right, we weren't together, fine.
Well, she forgives him straight off anyway. It's just like
I know.
He has a phone call afterwards in like 2 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you forgive me?
Yeah. I hope this isn't like a reflection of my character, and I'm not really like this. But why didn't Jeffrey just go, I haven't slept with her? She's clearly out of her mind. You could have just said, like, she's clearly like having a moment here.
The shaggy defense.
He's young as well, but how old's Jeffrey supposed to be? 20 or something? And
he's like, I'm having two ladies at the same time here.
I'll tell you the worst thing Jeffrey did in all of that film. He took Sandy to a bar and got a drink.
Yeah, she was well, he might not even be in a certain age. Yeah. Well, Sandy may have been underage, but Laura Dern, she was 29 when this film came out.
No. 29?
Yeah, this came out in 86.
86, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's like a 65 baby.
No way.
Come on, who can Google it the fastest?
No, she was born in 67, but she was 18. No. You've added 10 years.
No, have I?
Yeah.
To be honest, though, I was sort of on board with it. I saw it in some light, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I can see it." Sorry, Laura.
No, when they filmed were doing the filming, she was 18.
I was going to say because she wasn't like mid to late 30s when she was doing Jurassic Park, because that was only like 7 years after this, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was mid 20s when she did Jurassic Park.
See, and I would have put it in Jurassic Park as about 35.
But do you think she aged that much? Do you think she aged that much between Blue Velvet and Jurassic Park?
Well, that's why it was on board with, like, I was thinking she was like 28, 29.
Oh, right. So you went off your Jurassic Park aging for what she would have been in this film.
And my poor math skills, obviously, that I can't.
I was trying to give you an out, Dad.
Take me out.
No wonder I didn't pursue A-level maths.
I would love to see it. I just coming back to this thing now where Jeffrey should have lied to Sandy in front of her while Dorothy is naked hanging on to him. She's like, he put his disease in me, and Jeffrey's looking at Sandy like that. I didn't love
Yeah, it is. It's the Shaggy defense, wasn't me?
Yeah,
Wasn't
but also he could have said like, yeah, she doesn't mean sex, she means something else.
Andrew would have just been like, Sandy, I didn't touch her, love. Look at the state of her, yeah.
She's old enough to be my mum. Come on. Isabella, what's her name? Rossellini.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she was with David Lynch, wasn't she? I think after this, because David Lynch found her in like a restaurant, not literally like found her like naked in a restaurant, but like
No, she was a she was a model before doing this film.
yeah, but I think he met her or something in a restaurant and then sort of said like, oh, I'd like you to have this part, because the part was originally, I think, they wanted Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
knowing Helen Mirren, she would have got her Babylons out in this. She gets them out in everything back in the day.
Good luck,
but anyway, yeah, she then got with David Lynch, didn't she?
I think they got together doing the filming of this.
Yeah, she was also with Gary Oldman. Didn't marry him, but she was married to Martin Scorsese.
What?
What? Isabella Rossellini?
Yeah.
Oh, before this.
I don't know if it was before.
Oh. It was. I think she was with him while he was doing Taxi Driver, and he was coked out of his head.
Oh, see, that's why he's in the taxi. Maybe she saw him. Maybe he saw her with Jeffrey in the window. Goes, right, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him.
Martin Scorsese go with it. Think about that now, boys. Martin Scorsese go with Isabella Rossellini while he was on coke.
And he's only like 5 foot tall.
I know.
You're making him sound like an Oompa Loompa.
He's like a white pygmy, isn't he?
Well, he's not far off, is he?
While we're talking about roles and who was considered for what, Molly Ringwood was also offered the role of Sandy, but her mum said, read the script, and she was like, yeah, you're not doing that.
I don't see. The thing is, with the Sandy role, it's not like she's doing anything. Any of the the dark scenes.
And then the other one who turned it down, not that role, but the role of Jeffrey, was Val Kilmer.
Really?
Yeah. That would have been an interesting choice, I think.
Yeah.
But
this was around the time he did Top Gun.
Yeah. But it went to Kyle MacLachlan.
That would have been a double bill for a year, wouldn't it? Top Gun and Blue Velvet.
Taking Twin Peaks out of the equation, what do you recognise? What's his name? Kyle MacLachlan for.
Well, I know he's in Sex and the City.
What was that, Ev?
Flintstones.
The Flintstones, yeah. Straight away, I was like, he's like the bad guy or the boss of the mine or whatever they work in.
I recognise him more for How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, he's in that, is he?
Yeah, he's in a few episodes of that.
I've seen a few things, but he's in like, was it Showgirls?
Isn't he in The Doors?
Yeah, he is. I don't know who he plays in The Doors.
One of the doors.
Yeah.
He's a door.
He definitely wasn't Jim, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. There's not many others I recognise. He looks totally different these days, though. Obviously, he's 40 years older, but yeah.
Was it just me, or didn't you think Jeff had a nice car for someone who's in college / uni?
Yeah, there's some money.
If that his dad's.
Yeah, there's some money laundering going through that hardware store, isn't it?
Oh no! His auntie says to him in one scene, "Do you want to borrow the car?"
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I took it as. Oh, go on, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say. He says, "No, I'm going to go for a walk," and that's when he bumps into Sandy again, I think, or something.
I took it as his old man was rinsing the books of that shop, and like he's proper underbelly stuff. And do you know what got it? Confirmed it for me. He's obviously employing people with disabilities, and then claiming extra money off the government. I reckon. The blind guy.
What was that American policy at the time? Was it?
Right, I don't know. I did like that little
Andrew
joke.
Applying 2023 British government policy to 1980s America.
Yeah, I did like that scene, you know, where he says like, how many fingers am I holding up? And he guesses 4, but you can see the other guy tap him on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And he goes, one day I'm going to find out how you do that. It's yeah, I did like that scene. What else? Let's talk about Dennis Hopper.
Oh, but he's the reason I watched this film. He's amazing in this film.
Do you reckon this is?
He loves an F-bomb, doesn't he?
Yeah, he loves an F-bomb. I haven't looked at it, but was this also during his sort of like coke age? You know, because he was often sort of like, I don't know if it was coke, but he's often high, wasn't he, on sets?
Did he ever not have a coke?
Well, maybe, I don't know. He's a good actor. It's funny, like, if you look at the film now, his name is always top billed. He's like one of the first character names or the actors to come up, you know, even above Kyle MacLachlan. What do you reckon's in that, in his mask? I know it's supposed to be like helium or something, isn't it? Or that's what maybe they gave him to give him a slightly higher voice. Well, nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really look into it.
See, I didn't see the tank first of all, and I thought to myself, like, after obviously the rape scene that he does, I'm just thinking, what's he sniffing in that mask? It's not even connected to anything. Is he just like, you know, doing it for effect and thinking he's getting high, going, oh yeah, this is nice.
Well, to be honest, I didn't even see the canister, so yeah,
no, I didn't
done.
either until when he meets Sam from Quantum Leap.
Well, we're gonna get into Sam in a minute.
Yeah. Ev, can I ask you? I know you don't like the film, but did you think Dennis Hopper was good at least?
Yeah, I think he was good in what he was portraying, but I think it's I don't know, like I said, it goes back to, I don't know, it being a bit arty and pretentious for the sake of it, and I think, like, I don't know, I'm saying that the rape scene in total, I don't know, it was just, they could have done a sort of, like, the remake of Hills Have Eyes is a good way of leaving stuff to the imagination. That there's a scene. Have you seen it? The remake of Hills Have Eyes.
I tried watching it. I gave up after half hour.
Well, there's a scene in there where one of the cannibals is raping a girl. You don't see anything, but basically it goes off to his mate who's just standing there watching, and you hear stuff in the background, and you think a shot like that would have been so much better because it leaves stuff to the imagination, like in Reservoir Dogs with the ear splitting scene. I think I don't know. I think it's just trying to obviously push the envelope so much, but then it just falls short and it's a bit boring.
You thought that scene was boring?
Well, not boring as such, but it's just it's trying to shock you, and it's in. I don't know. I'm just lumping it into the film as a whole. I didn't like it.
You just weren't fond of it.
No. And I think if they were gonna properly shock you, they wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been upfront, if you know what I mean. I'm not explaining it very well. I think it would have been better if they would have left stuff to the imagination rather than.
What would you have? So you would have rathered the camera be on Jeffrey in the closet witnessing what was going on, rather than you actually seeing yourself what was going on.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Because at least then you're getting someone else's viewpoint, you know. So that person's seeing the horrific things that are happening.
Do you think, given Kyle MacLachlan's performance in this film, that he would have given you the reactions that you needed so that you would understand what was going on outside?
That's the point. Yeah.
So can we talk about Dean Stockwell?
Yeah,
Sam. Leap. I didn't really understand his character. First things first, he runs the worst brothel in the world. You see some of those
Can
offerings
I
that
ask
he
you,
had.
Anne, how many brothels you been in, right?
Admittedly, I've never been in a brothel. Actually, I stand corrected. Because when we went to Magaluf, I don't well, he probably remembers this. On our first night out,
Yeah.
naive 18-year-olds in Magaluf, and
Oh,
you
I
know,
know.
all the people are outside in the bars going,
Out.
yeah, come in here, free drinks. And we went in, and it was clearly a brothel.
Yeah, they sold it as a booby bar, didn't they?
Yeah. So they sold it as an 80s booby bar. So I was first through the door. And yeah, it was clearly a brothel. So we had our free drink and we left.
Yeah, but
And then I can't say this on the podcast, but then one of our friends revisited it later that night. And I won't say who.
can I just say though, right? I now that you've reminded me of that, I've actually been in 2 brothels, and
Are you
So
going to
the
talk about Bella Medina as well?
no. So the second brothel was on a night out in Cardiff when I wasn't living in Cardiff, and one of the boys I was out with, he wanted to try a brothel.
I
And
think I know
said,
this story as well.
Yeah. So I said, all right, go on then if you want. And he said, no, you're coming with me. And I said, I don't want to do that. And he said, no, just come and wait. And I was like, what, they're going to have a waiting room, are they? And it turns out they did have a waiting room. And I paid £10 at 4:30 in the morning to wait in a brothel waiting room for him to finish. And can I just say now that, what's Dean Stockwell's character's name? Ben's brothel wasn't that much worse than the brothel I was in. So you saying that's one of the worst brothels you've seen. All I'm going to say is that I haven't been in that many, but that Ben's brothel didn't seem that bad in comparison.
It's a true representation of brothel life.
They charge you 10 quid to wait there.
We've all got the impression that when people go to brothels, Elizabeth Shue's going to be in there, and you're going to have an amazing time and meet an amazing woman, or you might get lucky and you might meet Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Never ever happens.
I just can't believe they charged you to wait there.
Oh yeah, of course they did. And he didn't pay for me. I had to pay £10 my own money to wait in it. And all I had on was BBC News 24.
I'd expect
At least they were keeping keeping abreast of the news.
Right, here's a question for you. And it's putting you on the spot. You might not be able to do it quickly, but famous brothel scene from a movie. I've got 2.
Twin Town.
Yeah, I was going to say Twin Town. Tits Out and Shandy, is it?
Yeah.
And then the second one. Hello, ma'am. Henry Swanson's my name, and excitement's my game.
Oh yeah,
Big Trouble.
Take your tie off.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I know it's a nice time. My wife gave it to me."
Well, what do you think Adam would say if we nominated Big Trouble again?
I don't want him to, because he doesn't like the film, does he? But is it one a case of he hasn't watched it in a number of years?
I think it's probably that. But then if you don't like a film, you're not going to go back to it, are you?
And I don't. It's not like, what did we watch the other day? And he hadn't watched it since he was a kid, but he shouldn't have watched it as a kid.
What, Golden Child, was it?
No, it was LA Confidential.
LA Confidential, and he turned around on that but I think if he didn't love Big Trouble when he watched it at a younger age, he's not going to love it now. It's one of those films I think you love when you're younger, and it just stays with you.
What are you on about? It's got better every time I've watched it.
Well, I think it has, but I was going to ask you, Prog, have you had a conversation with Adam as regards to what he thinks of this film?
Briefly, I think he's of a similar opinion to me insofar as he quite likes the film, but he hasn't told me this, but I would imagine he would have certain issues with it. But he again, he's like me, he quite likes David Lynch, and
Yeah.
I like David Lynch because he tries to do stuff that's, he's not a traditional filmmaker, if that's the case, if I can say it that way.
Going back to Dean Stockwell, the only thing I wanted to say was it was a bit strange seeing him in that role. Like,
Do you think he was high in that scene?
I don't know.
He looks a little.
High on life.
He was high as a kite in that scene. The character was anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dean himself, but
high on cock, I think it was. But...
Can I just briefly say what my favorite scene was?
Yeah, go on. I got a favorite scene as well. So you go first, go on.
It's when Jeffrey is found in the apartment, and then Frank Booth comes in, and all that stuff happens. For me, that is the crux of the film. That's when I'm watching that film and I'm thinking there is so much going on with the characters as well that it just gets me every time. Like every time I watch the film, the start of it, I'm always like, it's a bit. I know what it's trying to do, but it's not pulling it off exactly. But as soon as that scene happens, I am in the film.
Are you talking about the end scene where Frank gets shot?
No, I'm talking about where he rapes and
right, okay, all right.
Dorothy, and it's just how weird and surreal everything is happening. And Jeffrey, you are right with like the Hitchcock elements because he's in the closet or the where is he?
He is in the closet, but they're like sort of
slats, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like slatted doors, aren't they?
Yeah. So he's in there and watching, and he's almost like he's that. I think in terms of the film, I think that's where his obsession starts. I think, like, it comes again. I keep going on about it anyway. Is how the film is executed, and I think what was supposed to be happening is that he had this intrigue and want to find out what was going on, and then when all this kicks off with Frank, I think he's in on this world, and he's just like, I need to know. And he's also starting this, how would you describe it? This like really, really strange relationship with Dorothy. So yeah, I love that. And Frank, I think his introduction, I know you're not a fan of, but I think that's one of the great character introductions in a film. I love it. Dennis Hopper is brilliant in this film.
Well, Dennis Hopper's in my favourite scene as well. And that's the end scene with it when he gets shot. And I just think the film ramps up. It's ramping up anyway as it goes along. But yeah, it's a bit more frantic.
When Sandy bursts into the room.
Yeah, well, maybe not that bit, but yeah, I for me, most of the things I liked about the film did have Dennis Hopper in it. Apart from
good, yeah. Oh, go on.
I was just gonna say, apart from his mommy bit.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
I
liked but that's him just unsettling, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I didn't like about it, I think.
Yeah.
And I liked him in the brothel scene where he's like he's threatening and menacing and stuff like that. That was good. He was really good in there. But yeah, it's just the earlier scene. But I'd have to say though, Dorothy's apartment, it's almost like an apartment of two halves. You've got like the front room, which is proper sexy boudoir, and then you go into the kitchen, which is just like boring. It's like
she doesn't own much stuff, does she?
Well, you think as well, that's meant to be an apartment for a family. She's got a husband and kid that live there as well, supposedly.
I did wonder whether whether she's been housed somewhere as well. I was saying that the people knew that she lived there, didn't they? But
yeah.
Who knows? Right, let's start thinking about wrapping this up. If no one's got anything burning more to say about it.
Sorry, I've got two things, and I'll get through them quickly. The
end. Before you get into it, Ev, do you actually have a favorite scene or a favorite element? If you don't, we'll carry on.
No,
okay.
Carry on.
Yeah, straight away.
The scene where it's got the yellow man, like standing there, and is it the detective on the chair? That's
the husband, isn't it? I read.
Sorry, Ev, you on about the end scene?
The end
Yeah.
scene, yeah.
Yeah. It's the husband with the cut off ear that's dead
Oh,
on
right,
his
sorry.
ear.
Yes. Yeah.
And the yellow man is the detective. He's stood up, but has he been hit in the head or shot in the head or something?
Yeah. I was
He
going to
plays
say
Fred, doesn't he? Fred Pinkler, is that his name?
Gordon.
Fred Pickler plays
Pickler.
Detective Tom Gordon and the yellow man.
Yeah. How does he stand up for so long? How is he there like that? If he's been shot or
Yeah, I don't know how he got those injuries, but I was assuming he had obviously had a brain injury, and then he was just like, but who did that? Is that Dorothy?
Frank, innit?
Frank, okay. I thought Dorothy had done it and then escaped.
No, I think
No.
Frank did it, and that's why
okay.
Frank was coming back.
Oh, okay.
That's it for me.
So it had a budget of 6 million. It only returned 8.6. So probably would have been seen as a bit of a commercial flop with regards to box office. But I can already see, since doing the research, it's got a real, like, not a cult following, because I think that's making it too niche, but it's got quite a big following. And I think it's a lot of people who like really appreciate certain films, if I
Yeah.
put it that way. But I'll may as well say it now. I wouldn't recommend this film personally. I've seen it. I won't go back to it, and I'd probably steer people to other films.
Yeah,
Ev?
I'm the same, to be honest. I can see what they're trying to do, and like have a bit of a take on a film noir, and like like you were saying in Prague about the two sides of life and whatever. But it's not for me.
Frog?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I still like the film. I do have issues with it. I wish certain things were done differently, but on the whole, there's enough in there for me to still enjoy it, and I know I'm going to watch it again in a few years' time. So, because I just find it fascinating. For some reason, David Lynch is the type of director. He does films, and I'm like, after I've watched a David Lynch film, I'm like, what the hell is that? But it's one of those films that stays in my head, and I start questioning what's happening. Mulholland Drive is a perfect example, right? If you boys ever do watch it, I'm not suggesting you do, because if you don't like David Lynch, I don't think you'd like Mulholland Drive. But if you do ever watch it, it's one of those films where, for the most part, you understand what's going on, and it's a really, really good film. And then there's stuff that happens, and you're just like, not a clue. What's that got to do with the film? And I think that's the type of person he is.
I keep getting David Lynch mixed up with David Byrne from Talking Heads.
No, David Byrne from Talking Heads. If you want to talk Talking Heads, Ev.
Right, come on, let's go on the final thing and let's choose next week's film. Normally Adam would lead this, but he's not with us. He's as viewers will know, Adam is a bit vain. So he's having a bit of plastic surgery. He's having the butt fat taken from him and then put it into his lips. So
he's having his lips done, is it? I thought he was having a chin done, like me, myself, and Irene.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, with the Adam. Anyway, so Ev is going to take lead on this week, only because I can't spell, and Ev's more technical savvy than me and Prog put together.
Nice. Can we see this? All good?
We can.
Right. Okay. So I'll put it full
So
screen.
far, so good, Ev.
All right. So good. So we got the three.
Although we got a sexy advert on the side.
Oh, get up. Goodbye. Right.
Oh, we're not gonna give it. You go first, Prog. I need to get my list up.
Yeah, go on, Prog. Give me a two.
Do you know what? I'm in the mood for Dennis Hopper, so I'm gonna say
Speed.
Hot Spot.
What was it?
Hot Spot.
Okay.
We have mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast. And the other one I'm going to say is Hoosiers.
As in the band.
And the film.
Yeah. And?
So, I was slightly disappointed in this film because it was billed as like an erotic thriller, drama, suspense film. And it wasn't erotic enough for me. So I'm going to go 9.5 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, all right.
And
Basic Instinct.
we haven't had him for a while, and I feel we need a bit of Kurt in our lives. So we're going to have Tequila Sunrise.
Whoa, that is a. I thought you were going to go backdraft or something then.
No, well, it also gives us the added benefit of Mel.
That's true. Yeah. And Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. Come on, Ev.
Right. Okay, so first one, I'm going to go. No, that's been parked for this week. I'm going to go
Mr. Mom.
Dick Tracy again.
What's your obsession with this Dick Tracy film, Ev?
I just Al Pacino's in it. It's just and Paul Sorvino, Paulie from Goodfellas. Yeah. Oh no, I want to go with another Kurt Russell film, but I really want to pick Big Trouble again, but we've already done it. Yeah, so I'm gonna go for maybe a lesser known one of a Breakdown.
I can't remember that film.
You're gonna have to remind us on bro who's in Breakdown.
Breakdown was.
I thought you were going to go the one with Goldie Hawn overboard, Ev.
Oh no, not that one. Breakdown was basically Kurt Russell and his wife are taking a road trip. They break down. He goes and gets petrol, but when he comes back, his wife's gone, and
Right.
it's got JT Walsh in it, from what I can remember. So
the other thing we should note that there's some films already on here. True Romance and Page Master were listener requests, and the booby film, which we always put in every week, is Combat Academy. And if Adam was here, he'd obviously swear blind that we haven't seen that yet. But I mean, that's a different story.
Should we
Go on,
spin?
then. Yeah. Well, it's got sound and everything, so.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
Bloody hell. Oof.
Finally.
Page Master.
Page Master.
I can't believe we had sound effects as well.
I know.
And the fireworks and everything as well.
Right, there you go. Next week's film is Page Master. Thank you for listening. Podcasts come out every Wednesday or Thursday, depending how quickly I can edit it. If you want us to do a certain film in the future, just let us know in the comments on whatever you listen or watch us on, especially since now Page Master is gone. So we need another film to put in there. Right, cheers all.